Howdy, 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 folks. Today we are going to be going over the Aurora MR starter ship. It is tied for the cheapest starter pack and the cheapest ship you can get in game. There are multiple variants of the Aurora series, but they all have a lot of similarities. The cheapest is the Aurora ES or Essential. I mean, it's a ship, it flies. I can't really recommend it past that. It's got quite a few limitations parts wise, and it's rough. It's a rough ship to fly. The flip side of that is the Aurora MR, really not too bad. You know, the starter pack for it, standard retail is $45 US. It gets you game access, it gets you this ship. To buy it standalone is $30 US. Also, not a bad price. And then to buy it in game is dirt cheap. It's 184,900 Alpha UEC. So it's a very obtainable ship. It's great if you're wanting to do a zero to hero type playthrough. Let's talk about some of its components. So you'll see right away we've got two size 1 guns right here on the nose. They're armored almost. I mean, you see these little cheeks coming up, which is kind of nice because sometimes when you have nose mounted ships and you get rammed in the front, they can get knocked off, but it's real hard to knock those guns off. They're also gimbaled, which makes them a little more accurate, and if this is your first ship, that's actually a pretty helpful thing. You might see those two cylinders on the top. Each one of those contains one size 1 missile. I mean, it's for a starter ship, it's not bad. As far as the interior components, there's no access to show them to you, but it contains a size 1. I mean, it's all size 1 parts. It has 2 slots for shields and 2 slots for coolers, which is actually kind of helpful because the extra shields, I mean, make it just a little tougher. It's not, I wouldn't classify it as necessarily a fragile ship like some of the other starters we're going to get into in some of these later videos. But it just makes it a little tougher to knock down. It's got a decent HP pool, 6,290 for the entire ship. It's got right near the middle of shields. It's got 3,000 HP on those shields, and that's stock. That's not any upgraded components. That's right out of the box. It's got a respectable DPS of 390 using those stock Bulldog laser repeaters that are right there. The SCM speed is not fantastic. It's only 147, but it does actually have a pretty nice top speed of 1,212 meters a second. So, you know, if you've got to fly to a place that doesn't have a quantum beacon, that's nice. You know, that's not a bad speed at all. That's right up there with some of the fastest ships in the game. Some of its pros are it's very upgradable, you know, and being that it's size 1 components, they're inexpensive, which is nice because if you're wanting to try out some new things, get a feel for different weapon types. Let's say you want to try out laser cannons or ballistic cannons, ballistic gatlings, the scatter guns. You know, it's not going to break the bank to buy a couple of those, throw them on there, or if you take the gimbals off, you can make that into size 2 weapons. One of the things I forgot to mention, it actually has 2 extra hard points, so you can actually mount 2 more guns and have 4 guns, which is not bad. It's got a decent power generator right out of the box. So if you mount all 4 size 1 laser repeaters like the Bulldogs, you're looking at 41 rounds in a magazine. For most of your small fighters, then, if you're able to hit most of those shots, you're going to kill it in 1 pass, maybe 2. And for those lower tier bounties, like, that's money. That's going to get you money. It's going to get you money quick. It's not a bad thing. In space, it's fairly maneuverable. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it agile, but it doesn't fly like a brick. It moves how you think it should. It doesn't feel like you have to fight the ship to get it to do things. In atmosphere is a little bit different. You will run into, especially if you're going over SCM speed, it is not going to want to turn, and sometimes it's going to turn in odd directions. I mean, a lot of ships are like that. Honestly, it seems to me like if it looks like it wouldn't be an aerodynamically fit aircraft, it's gonna fight you a bit in atmosphere. It's not necessarily true. It is a video game, not real world, but for this ship it definitely holds true. One of the things that I'm glad they finally made functional in 3.18 is this exterior cargo bay, where you can actually buy, 3 SCU of cargo. We're going to be doing that a little later in the video, and it'll lock in right there. If you've got a tractor beam, you can detach it and move it around. So it's kind of neat, it's one of the advantages all the starter ships have over pure fighters is none of the pure fighters have cargo areas, which makes sense. I mean, they're not for that, but if you're out running bounties or box missions and you've come across something that you want to pick up and be able to sell, that's an option. One of the other neat things is it has an actual internal space. So it has a price point companion, the Mustang Alpha, and they're fairly comparable. But one thing this has that the Mustang doesn't is this internal space. And I mean, it's not huge, but if you want to run box missions a little easier, a little quicker, this ship's really the one to buy, because you can store, you can normally stack 3 to 4 delivery crates in here. I wouldn't go any more than that, because sometimes when you go to drop it, it's gonna pop you out the roof. It's a strange thing. I haven't flown this much since 3.17, so they may have fixed that, but I just wanted to make sure I put that in there so it didn't surprise anybody. Another thing this has that the Mustang doesn't is that bed right there. And if you want a bed log, you gotta hop off real quick, dogs are barking, or you gotta go do something, it's nice to have that option. And another thing, and this is purely a personal thing for me, but I absolutely love it, and it's that the view from the pilot seat really isn't hindered. Anywhere that you're going to be looking, you can see what's going on, even down. So when you're trying to land in places where it's a little maybe jagged rocks or stuff going on around there, you can actually see below you to the front. Let's see some of the cons, because this wouldn't be fair to only highlight her positives. Some of the cons are the stock firepower, right? So you haven't bought any new guns, you haven't done any upgrades. Stock firepower is less than stellar. I mean, granted, it does have very large magazines for these 2 Bulldogs. I think it's, let's say, 81 rounds. But at the same time, DPS for only 2 size 1 repeaters is pretty low. 390 is kind of limiting. If you don't upgrade, it's going to be tough to do higher tier bounties, and you're a little bit more vulnerable if you get jumped by pirates. Another negative is that low SCM speed. when you start getting into those higher tier bounties, the MRTs, the HRTs, the ships you're going to be fighting are going to be able to outturn you. They're going to be able to outturn you with speed, and you know, if it's NPCs, it's not that big a deal because they don't fly particularly well. But if you're going after player bounties, good luck. I mean, granted, there's skill gaps all over. You might be an amazing pilot, and that's awesome. I'm not making this video with the expectation that everyone that watches it is an amazing pilot, so I want to give accurate information. I mentioned it earlier, but the atmospheric flight is kind of rough because you're going to have to float around that low SCM speed, or you might end up smacking into the moon or an asteroid that you're fighting on. And the last thing, and this is purely subjective, but I mean, it wouldn't be fair to not mention the fact that it's ugly. It's an ugly ship. From the front, not so much. But boy, when you get in and you actually look at that rear, these aren't wings. They don't fold out. They sit just like that. It's an ugly boat, you know. And then one other con, and kind of a con, it's not really too big of a deal, but I'll highlight it here real quick. There is every ship has a cross section, and the cross section on this is just really long for what it is. And because of that, you know, missiles, cross-section missiles that lock on using your ship's cross-section are going to be a little harder to avoid. And it's also, it kind of puts a strain when you're in longer fights on your shields, because your shields are trying to cover the whole thing. This actually seems to be kind of a problem for RSI ships in general. I have a Constellation Taurus that I just love, but for whatever reason, even though it has massive shields, it has a habit of somehow the shielding in the middle just doesn't seem to hold up as well, and then I get blown up at the midpoint. It's not very often, but that's usually if I get killed in combat in my Constellation, that's how it happens. I've already picked up a couple of bounty missions, a bounty mission and a delivery mission. We're going to run those real quick so you guys can see how this ship does. I won't lie, I do like this ship. I really do. This was the first ship that I flew on a free fly event during an IAE, and until I got a different ship, I didn't think anything was wrong with this. And to be honest, I don't think anything is wrong with this one. A lot of the people that are making videos doing these ship reviews complain about the Aurora, and I mean, to each their own. I think for what you're buying, it is a great ship. It can get you into, at least a little bit, into each of the major game loops. The only ones that can't are the ones that require specialized ships. So you know, obviously it's not going to go do mining or salvage, but it can get you into bounty hunting. It can get you into doing box delivery missions. It can get you to bunkers. Little caveat on the bunkers, and y'all are going to hear this a few times over the next few videos that I release. There's two types of bunker missions. At the end of the day, there's really only two types. There's attack bunkers and there's defend bunkers. Attack bunkers are hostile as you're approaching. You're going to get a trespassing warning. The turrets outside are going to be hostile. They're going to shoot at you. So most of the time, if you're doing attack bunkers, you want to have either a ship that can take out those exterior turrets, or you're going to want a ship that can carry a ground vehicle. This ship can do neither of those two things. So, you know, if you're wanting to run bunkers, yes, this ship can get you to them. You will be able to complete them. But you really got to make sure that you read the text, because if it's an attack mission, you're going to need to land a couple of clicks out and walk. If it's a defend, you can go land right outside the front door. You can land right outside that front door, walk on in, do what you got to do, and get out of there. It's actually kind of a good example. So we're fighting a Gladius, which is, from everything I get told, the meta fighter. Yeah, it's kind of sluggish in that turn here in atmosphere. Let's see if he'll turn around on us. I feel like there's more than one ship out here, and it's just not targeting them. Either way, I mean, we just killed a Gladius. I don't see any red on my ship outline. I don't think we actually took any real damage. And I'm not I'm not a great pilot. I mean, I'm passable. I can get the job done, but I'm not gonna impress anybody with my flight skills, and that's okay. I made my money in the infantry anyways. Alright, so that's done. We're gonna pop over and show you a box mission real quick, just to show, like, you know, this ship can do a little bit of everything. Keep in mind, if you've got a ship that can do box missions, that's not the only thing that it can do. It's not just the delivery mission tab. Once we get into quantum here, I'll show you. If you've got a ship that can do deliveries, that means it can also do research assistance missions. It can do maintenance missions, which is the disposal. I haven't done search missions in a very long time. Or, oh, what's the other one? There's another one that pops up, but I don't know how many things of the Zeta Prolinide you got to pick up at these things, and I don't want to waste anybody's time while I'm trying to figure it out. But you could do them when I started, is what I'll say. I didn't particularly enjoy them, so I haven't ran them in a long time. But to each their own. I mean, the investigation missions where you got to land, there's going to be usually hostile NPCs at a shipwreck, and you're going to have to find and identify bodies. The ship can do that too. So I'm trying to get across, and it's, if I don't get anything else across in this video, is, you know, if you go on to YouTube and you watch the reviews where people are talking about these starter ships, for whatever reason everyone bashes the Aurora. Are there better ships? Absolutely, but there's better ships than every ship. It's how you're going to use it that matters. For $45, this gets you in the game, and it's a ship that can let you feel out what game loops you enjoy, what professions do you enjoy, and that's awesome. You know, I've played quite a few space games, and you get in, and the ship that it starts you with it can't do anything. And that's not the case with this. The Aurora can do a little bit of everything, and it's not a hindrance at any point. I've never been flying the Aurora and felt like, man, the ship's really holding me back. You get to the point where you realize that, okay, this isn't what an Aurora can do. You know, should an Aurora be going after HRTs? I mean, if you want a challenge, absolutely. But if you're just trying to make a little bit of cash, probably not. But can it do it? Absolutely. And that's the thing, you know. If you practice with any of these ships, you can do just about anything you want to do.
Engines are off.
Alright, we've landed. We're going to go pick up our box. Of course, it's all the way over there. We're going to pick up our box, and we're also going to pick up some trade goods while we're here, so I can show you guys that cargo bay. Little note, little self-promotion here. I'm going to be doing a video on each of the starter ships. This is the first one that I'm doing. And the next ship up is the Mustang Alpha. And we're going to be covering every starter ship that's a starter package under $100. Well, not $100. 75, I think, was my limit. And that covers 6 ships, and there's 6 generalized ships. They're true starters. I mean, there's other starter packages that are a little higher. I might actually do one. You know what? I'm going to do 7. I'm going to do the Cutlass Black just because, like all the other starter ship packages, it can do a little bit of everything. Alright. We're going to place that. Sweet, it did not eject me out of the ship. I don't know if that's still a thing, so please don't take that commentary as a knock on the ship. I'm enjoying this a lot. I'm not in this for the money. I really love this game. And when I started, there were a lot of people who talked about really complex things, but they didn't actually tell you how any of the complex things worked. And that's a big reason I started doing this. Was I did not need to fight that thing, that's for sure. But that's a big reason I started making these videos. It's kind of how one of the reasons I explain a little in depth, probably a little more in depth than is necessary.
Docking request initiated. Docking unavailable. Landing gear deployed.
But I'm doing my best, and I genuinely appreciate every second that you guys spend watching my videos, all of the comments. It's helping me get better, and it's helping me make a better product. And that's what I want to do. I want to put out videos that are answering you guys' questions. I'm really hoping that Cutlass Black doesn't decide to come blow this little thing up. I'm hoping he sees that Freelancer and thinks that's a tastier target. That is what happened. Sweet. Cool. Yeah, they're gonna blow my ship up. But that's okay. I've got others. So yeah, that's the whole deal right there. That's a completed bunker run. Not bunker run, jeez. That's a completed delivery. We did a bounty. Like I said, this ship can do it all. Let's see if it's... No, still not registering it. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm gonna go park this, and I will catch you guys out there in the verse.